Hello everyone, welcome back to a snowy, blustery, stormy winter Vlogmas Day 2. This morning when I woke up, it was completely clear, not a snowflake was in the sky, and on my way back from work, it was mounds and mounds of snow, snow plows in the streets. I was definitely white-knuckling it home, trying to drive very slowly. Luckily I have four-wheel drive, but that was quite the drive. I'm continually astounded by the snow as someone who grew up in Southern California, and I don't think the novelty of it has quite worn off, even though when I was clearing off my car when I was trying to get back home after work, I made the mistake of not putting gloves on, and it did feel like my fingers were going to fall off. It was very cold, very painful, but I made it home, and on that drive started thinking about books I've read where winter is its own antagonistic force, its own character that the protagonists of our books have to struggle against, and how authors have employed snow and winter in various ways throughout literature. The first one that came to mind was Winter's Heart by Robert Jordan. As a Wheel of Time fan, the winter really manifests as a sign that the Dark One is meddling in the world and not all is as it should be, and how that works in a fantasy setting versus a more sort of literary or like contemporary novel in The Secret History. The winter is both an antagonistic force. I'm thinking of the iconic winter break sequence where Richard is abandoned by his newfound friends as they all shuttle off to their holiday homes and have wonderful Christmas breaks. They abandon newfound friend Richard to a horrible warehouse where he almost freezes to death in the Vermont winter. The very first sentence of that book: "The snow in the mountains was melting, and Bunny had been dead for several weeks before we came to understand the gravity of our situation." In that sense, the snow is something that covers up. I just love how Donna Tartt depicts this privileged society and critiques academia in The Secret History. And of course, I don't have to sing the praises of The Secret History. It has spawned so many copycats, but I don't know if any of them have come even close to the genius and the biting critique that Tartt manages in that book. Yeah, it's really interesting how winter specifically plays a role in that book as a literary device. Turning to sci-fi, winter and sci-fi, I'm thinking of Ammonite by Nicola Griffith, which is a book I read earlier this year, and that also similarly has a character where it has a long sequence that is sort of very reminiscent of the movie Revenant. I haven't actually seen that movie, but it features a woman who is struggling against the cold and literally chooses her own agency and freedom, chooses to battle it out with the elements instead of being in a situation where she is being held captive, essentially. And it takes place in a sci-fi world on a different planet where only women can live and survive. Ammonite is a book that I think I appreciate a lot more the more that I think about it, and the more time that passes since I've read it. Another sci-fi where winter features very, very prominently is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgeshik Rice. This is a setting where the power grid has gone completely dark in northern Canada, in Anishinaabe territory. These people know how to survive off of the land because they have to, know how to hunt and how to gather resources in the winter. These skills start to become a source of conflict as people from outside of the Anishinaabe tribe start to try to take advantage of these skills. I read this book 5 years ago in 2020. It's one of the earliest books I talked about on my channel, and it was just a really atmospheric, eerie, wintry book. If you're really into the struggling against the winter, battling it out with the elements vibe, I would also recommend The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. I read that earlier this year, and it is in contention for being one of my favorite books of the year. It is a very short book, and again, it features a young girl who escapes from the Jamestown colony. It takes place in the winter of 1609 to 1610, which is commonly referred to as the starving years. This young girl who is brought to America against her will, she's a servant girl, essentially escapes and again decides that it's quite literally better for her to battle it out with the elements and see what she can do on her own out in the wild than stay in this situation where humans have built so-called civilization. I just love Lauren Groff. She's one of my favorite writers. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that after having only read 2 of her books, but she is definitely an author who I want to read to completion. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these wintry books. What are some of your favorite depictions of winter in fiction? I would love to know. This year, I do not have an actual advent calendar, but I do have this self-care advent calendar that I found for free on Instagram. It is so rare to find things on Instagram that are actually helpful and are free and are not trying to sell you something or trying to get you to sign up for something. And it was just really nice to come across this little self-care advent calendar graphic while I was scrolling, and I immediately took a screenshot because I didn't buy one this year. It just snuck up on me December 1st. So I will be doing this self-care advent calendar with you all, and I invite you to do it with me, and I will share the link in the description box. Day one was yesterday, and the prompt is to light a candle. I did that yesterday. It was really nice. I have a wonderful apple dumpling scented candle that I love that my friend Lisa got me. Today's prompt is to make hot cocoa. And again, it's quite perfect because it's snowy outside. I think it will be quite lovely